Friday brings the return of MLS action. The New York Red Bulls add another designated player, and Mike Magee sheds some light on a rough start in LA. Next on The Daily. Welcome to The Daily. It is Friday, July 27th. I'm Andrew Wiebe. Next to me, Greg Lawless. And Greg, we're back after a week in Philadelphia for the MLS All-Star Game. Back in New York and ready for MLS action to start. One game tonight. RSL hosting the Vancouver Whitecaps. That's at 9 p.m. on MLS Live. And speaking of All-Star Game, DeMerit played 90 minutes just 48 hours ago. How is that going to affect the way Martin Rennie puts out his team?
Well, I mean, DeMerit is some sort of a machine, if you will, and I expect that he actually might be in the starting lineup in this one. Even though he played 48 hours ago or whatever, I think that this is a game that's so important, and DeMerit is so vital to that back line. I think Martin Rennie will look him in the eye and say, "Are you ready to go?" And DeMerit's going to look at him and say, "Of course I'm ready to go. Let's do this thing." Especially against a team like Real Salt Lake, one of the teams they're chasing. Right now, Vancouver, third place in the Western Conference. They're 5 points behind Real Salt Lake. They want to make up some ground on all of their rivals in the Western Conference to continue to solidify that playoff spot.
Yeah, Kenny Miller, another player a lot of people are looking for, likely to be a substitute in this game. Martin Rennie saying still kind of in that preseason mode. On the flip side, Real Salt Lake, they've got a couple games coming up as well. CONCACAF Champions League going to start for them on Tuesday in Costa Rica against Herediano. How do they approach this one with that in mind? Starters, subs, a mix?
I think you have to go with your starters in this one. They haven't played for a week, and they want to get some rhythm in this one. Sure, they play on Tuesday. You know what? That's three days. They'll have some rest. It's a tough trip down to Costa Rica anytime you go down there. If any team knows how to do it, it's Real Salt Lake with their veterans in the midfield, Morales and Beckerman and those guys. Beckerman is probably the one because he traveled to New York for the All-Star Game. He's the one you might want to be careful with. He's so vital for their midfield that you maybe hold him out in this one. But just knowing Jason Kreis and knowing the way Beckerman is, these guys want to go out there every single game. The starters want to play in every single game, and I expect actually starters on both sides.
Just a reminder, that game is 9 p.m. on MLS Live. Catch in for the MLS Friday Night Lights. And after a week of speculation, Tim Cahill finally announced as a New York Red Bulls player yesterday. Some things to work through. He's got to get that P1 visa approved and also get the international transfer certificate. But it looks like this one is done. The big question, where does he play?
Well, that is a question. And actually, Frank Lampard from Chelsea sort of suggested where he should play. He talked about him as a quote-unquote attacking role or a midfielder. So I expect him to play in that sort of withdrawn forward role right behind Kenny Cooper and Thierry Henry, or maybe even alongside Thierry Henry in behind Kenny Cooper. It could be either one of those things. Cahill brings a dynamic that they don't necessarily have going forward in this. All action going forward out of the midfield. Thierry Henry a little bit more of a subtle player than Cahill, obviously. So I mean, this is a huge move for them, I think. He is looking to make his debut against Tottenham in a friendly next Tuesday, so we'll see what happens with that.
That he will not be available to Hans Backe, though. Saturday against Montreal, that game at 7:30 p.m. on MLS Live. Make sure to catch that one. Looks to be a sellout at Stade Saputo. And of course, there's a lot more MLS action going on this week and a bunch of storylines to talk about. Maybe the biggest one yesterday outside of RSL in Vancouver, Mike Magee shedding some light on a difficult start in LA.
Yeah, well, Mike Magee is saying, look, it was actually worse than we let on in the early going. And the thing he talked about most was that there was no accountability for anyone. No one was holding anybody's feet to the fire to say, hey, you didn't play well. You didn't do the right things, including all the big timers. He said the big timers took it upon their shoulders, big timers meaning, of course, Beckham, Donovan, and Keane, who have taken it upon themselves to say, we need to lift this team. And they've certainly done that. The Galaxy, probably one of the most dangerous teams in MLS right now.
Yeah, and LA will be in Dallas on Saturday. That game, 8 p.m. NBC Sports Network on Sunday. NBC Sports with another MLS game. New England and Philadelphia. Freddie Adu expected to be available for that one.
Yeah, he came out and he basically said, look, there's no problem here in Philadelphia, regardless of what those quote-unquote team matters were that held him out of the last game for the Union. Any rumors about trades? There was one that said he was going to go to Dallas for Breck Shea, and all he rubbished all those, as the English press would say. So looks like Adu back in the fold for Philadelphia. But you know what? We were in Philadelphia this week for the All-Star game, and the Union themselves said, look, the Union, Freddie Adu is certainly an important part of this team, but he's not the star of this team anymore. You know, they're looking at Michael Farfan as one of those guys, Jack McInerney, some of the younger guys that are coming up and really making a name for themselves.
Yeah, another game to watch this weekend is in Colorado. Michael Gesperning possibly going to make his return to that starting lineup for the Sounders. That's 9 p.m. on MLS Live. Of course, check MLSsoccer.com for all the TV listings for all the games this weekend. Make sure you change your fantasy team tonight before that deadline hits. And also check out the new tables. Live updates, a single table with supporters' field standings. That's all we have for today. We'll see you on Monday.